Cool. Anyway.
Composed.
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of our podcast. A little bit different today. John's not with me, but instead I've got Chloe and Acacia with me today. Woo!
Hello.
There we go. So, I thought what we'd do is do a bit of a look at what it is that you two do, and the importance of why you do it and why we implemented the roles that you guys fill. But for anyone who doesn't know who you two are through not interacting with the company before, anything like that, just give a brief introduction as to who you are, how long you've been with the company, what your role is, things like this.
Yeah. So my name's Acacia. My job title is Head of Customer Experience. I started back in August 2020. Yeah, August 2020. Had to work that out then.
Grand, okay. And Chloe, you were a little bit later, but not far behind.
Yeah, so I am a client experience manager. I've been with the company now since Feb of 2021.
Yeah,
so just over a year.
Yeah, we just celebrated your 1 year with the company, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, didn't get you cake or anything, but you know.
No gifts, but it's okay.
No, I felt a bit bad actually.
Great. Okay, so what we'll do is, if you want to first touch on briefly what the overall process is for customers when they're selling their property. Obviously, we've got valuations, marketing, all sorts of different things, the viewings and stuff, all sorts of different things that are involved in it, and where you guys sit in that whole process.
The basic outline would be somebody would call up, they would want to book in for a valuation. Once that's booked in, obviously somebody will go out to the property, they discuss their services and whatnot. And then it'll be the marketing strategy, so going out doing all the digital content for it, and then launching onto the portals, and then obviously conducting viewings. So whether it's an open day or pick a day, so Monday, Tuesday, and whatnot. So secure an offer, and then you'll be passed over to sales progression team where they would take you through the legal process right to key handover.
Okay, so I mean that's what people can expect if they were to go with anyone on the high street.
Yeah, that's a very brief
summary.
Yeah.
And so, Chloe, if you want to take over from there, then what is it that we do differently, and where you guys come into that process?
Yeah. So I mean, sort of from the first point of call that when they call up for the valuation, that's usually going to be Acacia or I that will answer that call. As much as we will take you through to the sales progression, we are going to be there from that first day. So we're already starting to build that relationship. Obviously you have your valuation, which is usually Ian or John that will come out to do that. And in the background of that, once you've said, yeah, we're happy to go ahead, we want to come on the market with you, we then start to sort of, build that relationship, and we start to do things like our AML and our ID checks. Whilst that's going on, obviously you've probably got Ian going around to do viewings, or one of us. It's more of it's a team effort. We sort of all get involved, and everyone, does everything really, and everyone plays a key part. And sometimes those parts are quite individual, but we all know what's going on, and we all do work together to be in that team. Yeah,
no, that's I certainly say that's true. We each have our individual skill set and things that we do. With mine, it's the content creation and creating all the material for marketing and things like this. But I think we all draw from the same pool of motivations. The reasons why I do my job to the degree that I do, and you do your job to the degree that you do, is the same for anyone who's in the team. It's all about that customer experience, and it's all about making sure that this process that's normally riddled with stress and anxiety has as least amount of that in it as possible. Yeah. And we introduce new ways of doing things, and other ways we keep the same but just make them a lot better. But everybody in the whole team is pulling from the same well of motivation. We all do it for the same reasons. I think it's important to drive that home, that you're all the way through the process. The pair of you kind of are there during every single step, from the right at the beginning and then right to the very end.
Yeah, we're not. The client isn't going to be with one individual department as such. It's going to be, like I said, we're a team. So we start off, building that rapport from the get-go, and we're there to the very end. And obviously John will step in at some points, Ian will step in, you'll step in with your marketing, but we're all in it together, just one team. We're always driving that. I know. Can you cut that out?
You can carry on, it's fine.
Just driving that customer service as well, just right from the start to the end.
Yeah.
And it will, even from key handover, we will always provide that service as well. We'll nurture the client as such, as we call it. So
yeah, no, it's having you all the way through the process is a really valuable thing.
Yeah.
I don't think probably anybody realizes until they've actually been through the process just how valuable it is to have somebody who's always that point of contact.
Yeah.
Who can always, speak to solicitors, surveyors, whoever it might be, and be able to relate all that back to the seller. I think it's a really important thing. I mean, there is points in which your interactions with the customer really ramps up. So obviously after they've accepted an offer and we've sold the property, we don't just kind of like leave it there. That last chunk is where you guys really kick in and start managing the rest of the process. Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll kind of, like I said, me and Chloe have said we're there from the get-go, but our role really steps up when we go through the legal process. Obviously we're working in the background doing that anyway, getting them transaction ready, but once that offer is secured, and we're going through the legal process with the solicitors, then that's when our work really kicks in, guiding the clients through from, sending their paperwork, doing their ID, answer any questions they have, helping them, print off any, documents, whatever it is, dealing with the inquiries, helping, liaising with both clients to get mortgage valuations booked in and more building surveys booked in as well, and just anything, helping find removal companies and whatnot. So our work really steps up there. Yeah, we're on hand 24/7. So
why do you think it's so important to have that aspect of it? Why do you think that house sales have happened for decades, and the process has been in place where there hasn't been as much attention put to a role like yours in the past, and we put a lot of emphasis and a lot of effort into the roles that you do. Why do you think it's so important to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we've had this sort of discussion a lot, but moving house, selling a house, whatever it's one of the most stressful things. So we've sort of always had the outlook of if we can take away some of that stress and make it a much more enjoyable experience and just help the clients, then that's what we're going to do. So whether that means we have to answer the phone at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, or it's a Tuesday afternoon and we're in the office, then we're going to do that, because for us it's about making sure that the clients are having an enjoyable experience.
Communication, your number one skill there.
For us it's about making sure that the clients have an enjoyable experience, and it's just about making sure that they're happy with everything and they know exactly what's going on as well.
Yeah, it's a huge journey for somebody to go through. It's a life-changing moment, whether it's your first home, your third home, or you're an investor, it's your last family home, whatever it is. It's such a life-changing moment, and we just got to be on hand to help them. And like Chloe said, it is a really stressful time, but we're like a concierge service. Like, we're on hand to kind of what do you need us to do to help you and tackle. There's going to be hurdles and lumps and bumps in the road, but what can we do to kind of tackle them? But yeah.
I mean, you've been doing this for over a year and just at a year for yourself. You've dealt with loads of people by this point. Mm-hmm. Do you find that people are surprised? I mean, obviously positively surprised by the fact that you're there to guide them through this process the whole time. It might be that this is the third time that they've moved, or the third time they've bought and sold a house, and so they would have been subjected to a completely different way of these things typically being done. Do you find that people are surprised and delighted by the fact that you're there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had some clients that are kind of like, why are you so involved in this process? I have had not that question directly, and you may have had it too, but like, why are you so involved in this, in the process? I've never really had this before. I bought and sold houses, and it's always just left to the solicitors, and it's just, communication is key, especially if you're in a chain. You can have one property in a chain, or you can have 8. So if you just have to be on hand for that communication. Otherwise, you're just at risk for the whole chain, or whatever whatever you're going through is going to break down. It's just, yeah. But I have had it where they're like, but why are you, but why? And it's just like, because we, you know, you've hired us to, or employed us to, you know, sell your property, and it's not just about securing an offer and going, right, now over to the legals, that's us done. We're there from the get-go.
Do you think that's more of the set way that it's, you know, unfortunately that is more of the set way that it's done when it comes to selling a home? You think that once a sale happens that it is normally quite hands off from agent's point of view?
I think, yes, in some cases. Obviously it's hard to speak for you know, for everybody, but there are some cases, like the people that have asked, why are you so involved? Yeah, I think it kind of gives a good example of what the industry has kind of been exposed to. So
yeah, I think as well, you know, people who have sold previously and, you know, they've sold 3-4 times over, they've obviously used other agents, they've had a different experience, and every time you sell a property you're always going to have a different experience. It's never going to be the same, you know, whether you're selling the same, you've sold a 4-bed detached, then you're selling another 4-bed detached, or whatever it may be. It's always going to be a different experience. But I think, you know, they sort of have a rough idea of what it is they're going to expect. And I think a lot of the time agents are expected to then take that step back.
Yeah.
Obviously with us not doing that and us sort of keeping on top of everything, you know, sometimes we're calling clients and we've been given information before they have, and they're sort of shocked, and they're you know, oh wow, how do you know that? How, you know, who told you this? And at the end, when they're, you know, we get to hand keys over, or sellers are moving out into their new home, whatever it may be, and they're so grateful because we've literally watched every single step of it.
Yeah, I've been there. Not hand holding as such, because obviously they don't need that. It's not about that, but it's just knowing that if they do have a question at whatever point, or they're confused about anything, or, you know, I'm really struggling with this inquiry or removals or whatever, we're just like, they can just pick up the phone and call us, and that's what we want. It's like,
more like I don't know, this might be a bad comparable, I might be told to cut it out, but almost like a tour guide. You know, people, you know, you're there next to them all the way through the process, and they can call on you if needed. If they don't, then you don't, but you're still going to be there in the background making sure things are still going the way that they should. Yeah,
we have clients that kind of like, you know, we've got this, we can do it, like, but it's just important for them to know that we're here. So
I think it's very important. You know, I mean, I'd certainly need that. I'm useless. I am absolutely useless with any sort of form filling in or any sort of, you know, red tape processing type. You know, I can't stand it, and I'm absolutely rubbish at it. So I'd need something like this. I'd need somebody who was gonna walk me through the entire thing and say, you know, you need to do this at this point and manage the whole process. I think it is very important. And even if people don't think they need it, I think it's just that additional safety net of knowing that level of support runs through not just the legal part of the process at the end, but the entirety of it.
Yeah. I don't know about you, well, you probably have, but, you know, I've had clients where, you know, going through the legal process and they needed an opinion on something, and John's done the valuation at the start, and they still felt comfortable just to give him a call on his mobile and ask him the question. It's just knowing that they have, you know, it's not just passed to me and Chloe, because we're all in it together as a team. So
and I think that is an important thing to note, that you know, the things that people experience when they interact with you, it's not just because your role requires that level of care that it's up there. It's because that level of care runs uniformly throughout everything that the company does, through my stuff, John's, Ian's, and yours as well. And I think that we do a good job of showing that. You know, you can see it in the content. You can see it with the interactions with John on evaluation, and with you two managing the whole process. You know, can you talk about any specific things have you two done or implemented that's kind of strengthened that that you can kind of point to since you come on board?
I mean, obviously, Acacia sort of takes the lead on this one, but I think some of the systems that we've brought into place, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but...
Yeah, CRM system. So we've kind of transferred from one CRM system to the other. The one that we had before just didn't quite fit with how we operated as a company and what we wanted to achieve. So we brought in a new CRM system over, I think it was July, August. So just transferring everything over, it just means that we've got like this central hub that is really tailored to what we strive for here. So it's just like, you know, all of the inquiries go there, our calendar's on there, and we can obviously analyse all the data, so reporting and whatnot, and it just means we're all connected as a team.
It worked better as, obviously, you know, the team grew. So when it was just, you know, John and yourself, then it worked really well, and then Ian came and it worked, and then Acacia came and it started not to work as much, and then obviously I came and it sort of, you know, it needed to change. And I think from my perspective, obviously using the new system, it's probably one of the best things we've done, because everything's just so much more streamlined.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think that implementing it, it was right for how much we expanded, how much bigger the workload got. Other challenges for the last 18 months as well. But it was certainly a huge benefit. It was very transformational when we implemented it.
Massively. And we had a lot of thought into it, and it did take us some time to choose which system to use, because obviously, like I said, we work in such a unique way that we wanted a system that carried us through that as well, and fit with what we wanted, and what we've got certainly does that. Yeah.
How do you think that trickles down to actual customers though? I mean, you know, the average customer is probably not going to care so much about our internal systems and how efficient our data is and things. Obviously, they'll want to know that we're efficient with it, but you know, they're not going to care so much about what internal systems we use. So how does it trickle down to them that they would see a benefit?
Because it's a central hub. So like we were saying, you know, we're one big team, and say for example, I wasn't here tomorrow for whatever reason, you know, Chloe could log onto the system and track what, you know, I've been dealing with a certain client. They can track the conversations that we've had, and it's just all kind of comes back to that journey that client is having, and it's all just streamlined.
I think it makes the process smoother for them as well. You know, they don't have to call up and say, oh, I need to speak to Acacia. They can just call up and tell us what the problem is, if that's what they're calling for, or if they're just looking for an update, whatever it may be. They can call up, and it doesn't really matter who they speak to, because anyone within the team can give them the answer that they're looking for.
Yeah, and it allows us to something called a match profile. So if somebody, you know, struggling at the moment, the market, there isn't much coming on. So we get a lot of calls where people are registering their interest with us. So it just allows us to build a client profile as such, register their details, build a match profile saying this is what they're looking for, and we can then each just kind of carry that client through and find them a property, find them a home.
So one of the other systems that we do use is WhatsApp. So, you know, when a client comes on board and they say, yeah, you know, I want you to market my home, instantly we'll create a WhatsApp group, which allows all of us in the team to be in the group with the clients. You know, when inquiries start coming in, we can keep track of them on there. We can let them know of everything going on. They can contact us at, you know, any point in the day, whether that's, you know, during sort of your standard 9 to 5 working hours, or whether that's outside of those on the weekends. And the WhatsApp groups, I mean, they're a lot more streamlined than the emails. I think sometimes there's obviously a risk with emails that they're always going to get lost in a junk folder, or you know, we might have 15 emails coming at once and they're going to sit somewhere in that, whereas we know that going onto our WhatsApp, it's just clients that are trying to contact us. Obviously they're our priority and they're who we want to speak to, so having that WhatsApp, it just means that they get a quicker response from us. They can get a response at any point in the day, and the same as if, you know, we need to get hold of them, we can just pop them a message rather than having to write out a lengthy email or give them a call.
And it links us all as one as well. Again, coming back to it just being a whole team, we're all in the WhatsApp group. So it's, say for example, Chloe had a really busy day with viewings and whatnot, and somebody asked a question and she wasn't able to pick it up, somebody else can answer it, and it's all just linking us one as a team.
Yeah, I love the WhatsApp groups. I think I love the simplicity of it. You know, it's this big problem that I think exists no matter what agent you go with or whatever it might be, which is this a nice, easy back and forth of information, and a nice flow of communication between, you know, us and our clients. And there is kind of like call up, oh, they're not in, I'll take a note, and, you know, whereas with WhatsApp it's just straight away back and forth. And it's one of those things where, you know, you've got this big problem and you think the solution's going to be this elusive, overly clever solution. Actually, it was just a real simple thing like WhatsApp, and it's a huge benefit. I mean, we're talking about how the CRM systems trickle down to customers and where do they see the benefit, that's a hard question to answer. With the WhatsApp, it's so evident, you know, it's all the benefit goes to customers when we're using that. It's invaluable.
Yeah, and I think we've just expanded as well, not just our sellers that use it, we do create it for our buyers as well. So obviously, you know, we've got a WhatsApp group for, you know, whether it's one person buying on their own or, you know, a family or whatnot. It's just then everybody's then grouped together and everybody's in the loop. So
good. I think that's a good sort of take on what it is you do, the importance of it, and maybe some examples of how we go about doing it. The last 18 months has been almost like a stress test for all that. So tell me about the last 18 months, what it's been like for you two, with things like the stamp duty, with things like COVID in general, and how turbulent that made the market. Because another thing I think is important to emphasise is that this, like you say, the concierge role of managing and looking after somebody all the way through this process wasn't something that was an answer to how intense COVID and stamp duty was. It was something that we're always going to implement.
it's a core value.
Yeah, absolutely it is. It's just that we implemented it, and then just around the corner was the biggest test of that value. You know, so tell me a bit about what the last 18 months has been like.
18 months, yeah. So it's about 18 months ago I started. We're over in the other office. I just done my training as such, learned all the processes and whatever. And then I started learning actually at the start of the stamp duty relief. So obviously, I think it was March 2020, obviously COVID hit, everybody was in lockdown, come out the other end of that, and then obviously, not the other end, but a full lockdown, and then we had the stamp duty relief announced, and then I started in the August.
Yeah, so that's 6 weeks, I think the property market was shut down.
Yeah, completely shut down.
Yeah, but then since then, for all the different on and off regulations that have come in, the property market stay open the entirety of it. Yeah,
we've remained open. So
obviously I came in sort of ready for the stamp duty. So, you know, joined in the February, and it was sort of, the training was provided, and it was, you know, I was trying to learn the process myself, and you know, I felt like I was constantly asking Acacia questions or John or Ian, and it was just constant questions, and you know, they were so busy. And so, you know, while going through the process and trying to learn all those bits, it was sort of like it worked really well actually, because it matched up. So I was learning what, you know, how the process works, what's in the legals, and at the same time clients were calling saying, oh, I need to chase up this, I want to know what's going on with this. So it was almost like that training came into practice very instantly.
Very on hand.
It was almost it was, you know, you were chucked in the deep end, but it was sort of, it worked really well because you know, I'm learning things, but to be able to learn the stuff that I'm being shown, it's sort of got to come into practice, and it did. And it came into practice in full force, really, for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, when it came into practice, I think that was the biggest evidence at that point that this approach, this way of thinking, having this role, this sort of concierge type role, this experience role, I think it was COVID, and more specifically the surge that was created through stamp duty, that really demonstrated just how important that role is, and how beneficial it is, because it was a perfect storm, really. You had everyone locked down in their house, and any prolonged period where somebody is in their house for a long period of time, they'd start to look at how their house might not be best suited for them. So you had a load of people going, oh, we should probably move, and then the perfect excuse given to them by the stamp duty being eliminated.
It was a financial relief as well. Obviously, the stamp duty just, it restricts so many people from moving because it is such a large lump sum of money.
You can't mortgage it.
It's just money. It's crazy. So anybody that even thought about moving in the last 2, 3, 4 years, that was not necessarily financially restricted by it, but you know, it was a big consideration for them. It was like, right, let's do this. And then obviously that initial 6 weeks of sitting in their homes, they're like, oh, can't sit in here anymore.
Fed up.
I'm fed up. It was just crazy 18 months. Obviously, coming out the end of the lockdown, obviously stamp duty relief hit. Everybody was like, get my house on the market, I want to move, blah blah blah. Then you had the conveyancers, solicitors that were working from home, so they were adapting. And then there was this huge surge of cases coming through, and they were like, what's going on? I don't know how to adapt to that. And it was just...
Can you imagine that surge without something in place like that constant flow of communication between you and buyers and sellers?
Yeah.
I can't think of how that would have worked.
Yeah. I mean, the average conveyance time went from about, well, eight weeks to, well, it was up to like 21 weeks the other month. So yeah, it's just crazy. So yeah, having somebody there to kind of guide you through it, because it's a stressful time anyway, but when you're doubling, trebling the length of time that it's going through, and obviously having a deadline, which was obviously initially, well, it was March, and then it got extended to June, and then September for the tier 2. Yeah, they obviously had that deadline to hit, and if you didn't hit it, those people would lose out, and it's just like, well, can I afford to move?
Well, I think that's a good demonstration of just how much you really do put. I mean, you had, what was the property that you had that you just scraped in under the stamp duty, like Indiana Jones going underneath a king's door?
Yeah, so we'd been aiming to sort of get in the stamp duty the whole time, but the sort of then few days before we hadn't exchanged, and the clients were like, oh, it's not going to happen, is it? And, you know, they could financially have continued without getting in the stamp duty. But obviously, like you just said, you know, it's a large sum of money that...
Yeah, it would have been highly disappointing to have that,
and
not a point that you could have, it's the fact that it would have been a real...
And the solicitor said, you know, we don't think it's going to happen. We just can't... I think it was, you know, some of it was a case of they physically couldn't fit it in. There was just so many people that were just, you know, pushing to get it through. And on the last day of the stamp duty, the solicitor said, right, actually, we're ready. So it was a simultaneous exchange and completion, you know, where it happens all on the same day. Part of that being then everyone's got to move on that day. And our buyer was from London. And because it happened so late in the day, you know, they didn't complete, I don't think, until about 6 o'clock at night. The solicitors had an extension, and they said, yeah, we'll stay and we'll get it done. It completed at about 6 o'clock, but obviously because no one thought it was happening, there was no removals in place, there was no vans hired, there was no family members on, you know, standby to come and help. So it was this, you know, this lady from London, it was just her. And she just had to cram as much as she could in her car, and she was doing about 3 trips backwards and forwards to try and get all of her stuff. And I didn't end up handing keys over until about 9 o'clock at night. And it was absolutely crazy. But it was so worth it, being able to know that we got them to that point, and our contact and our chasing with the solicitors, and, you know, speaking with the chain, and just the contact in general with everyone made it happen and saved them, you know. I don't even want to think about how many thousands they saved.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, like, that must be, when you look back on a situation like that, knowing that you were so instrumental in that whole process must be insanely rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long day, and by the end of it, it was just, you know, I just was done for the day. I just needed to sleep, sort of thing. But looking back at it the next day, coming in the office, and we sort of made a joke for it that I'd done the night shift. But it was so worth it, and they were so grateful for it as well, because, you know, got them into their new home just in time, saved them the money, and came out to hand the keys over at 9 o'clock at night when she arrived. So so it was your crazy stories.
Yeah. One of yours. What, could you think of any crazy times that you've had? Didn't you have to buy someone fish and chips once?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that was stamp duty related, but that was just a hurdle in the road as such, you know, key handover. There was a confusion with locks being changed, and we it was raining, they had small children, bless them, and they were on the driveway and they couldn't get in, and it was just awful. And it was just like, are you hungry? Like, do you just want some food? So fish and chips, that was it, on the door, and little things like that. They were just so thankful, because, you know, we'd, you know, made a stressful situation that little bit easier. It's like, just put the kids in the car and give them fish and chips.
I think it's important to have those examples to point to, though. I mean, so many people, not just in this industry, but across the board, there's loads of people who always say words like experience, service, and they... You know, sometimes those words just become quite hollow unless you have examples to point to. I
mean, it's easy to say those words, isn't it? But you kind of have to give an example of what you do as such, and lead by what you say. So
I think in this industry there's such a scope for you know, being able to make the process better. And like you say, you know, we each have our individual ways of doing that, but having that constant thread, that constant current that runs through the entire process from the first time they call up to say, I'm interested in putting my house on the market, to the point in which they sell.
Yeah, and because we're so invested and passionate in what our clients are doing as well, and the industry as such, you know, somebody calls up and they want to put their property on the market, and it's not, you know, just another property that we're bringing on. We're all, I know when we're in the office, I always hear like, oh, why are they moving? Like, what's the house like? And it's always just that we're just so invested in what our clients are doing and why they want to do it. And because we're so invested, we can give them that concierge service. So
I mean, stamp. Yeah, okay. So I mean, stamp duty was, you know, quite a big moment, I think, for everybody in the industry, particularly for you two, because like I say, it was stress testing the whole idea of what the purpose of your role. But what's some other challenges, times that you've had in the last 18 months or 12 months?
Reflecting back, talking about the CRM system earlier, I think we had, I wouldn't say a funny, well, so I suppose it's a funny story.
It is.
It's not funny for you.
It wasn't at the time.
Yeah, I mean, implementing a new CRM system, obviously transferring all the data across, it wasn't an easy task, but it was like my baby. So I was just trying to make sure that it was up and running for everybody and it was all functional and whatnot. But I think it was 2-3 days before we were supposed to launch. So we're taking down our old CRM system, which means all our properties on the portals were going to come off. I tested positive for COVID. Mm-hmm. So, and at first I was like, oh yeah, no, I feel fine, I'm fine.
It hit you really hard.
Yeah, and then day 2, it hit me really hard. Yeah. Like, could barely speak. I was just like, no energy whatsoever.
And you've ploughed through some really intense hangovers. So
yeah, I know.
For it to hit you hard.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Yeah, that really knocked me for 6, which is saying something. So yeah, I think that was on the Friday, and then we were launching the new CRM system on the Monday, I think it was. Which was just a huge thing for us. It was just it was a mammoth task, but it was rewarding. But I just remember, John called me and we were talking to each other about, you know, editing some of the data in there and whatnot. And I just remember sitting there and I was like, hello, and he's like, are you sure you can do it? I was like, yeah, no, it's fine. And I was thinking, this feels horrible. I felt horrible. But yeah, and then we did it. We turned the old CRM system off and put the new one on, and it was okay. There were a few minor errors, but yeah, it was pretty difficult.
It didn't go as bad as we thought, I don't think, you know. Obviously with Acacia not being here, it was sort of, we all thought, you know, what do we do, how are we going to do this, but we just sort of got stuck in really and did it. And
yeah,
I mean, a lot of it was a case of we were trying to, you know, text Acacia or email her because we didn't want to ring her, and but you know, I think by the time you came back from COVID, it was sort of, we'd got the basis of it and we were using it.
Yeah.
And then it's got better from there, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of it's an amazing operating system, and it's streamlined everything we do. But it was a journey, because it wasn't like, you know, well, we're just going to switch the CRM system to a new one. It was, I think we decided, well, I found the one that we wanted in the February, and we didn't launch it until the July, because we just wanted to make sure everything was there. But yeah, it was months in the making, and then
Yeah, I like that though. I like that we. I like how meticulous we are when implementing something new, with how much trial and error we have, and I think that's true across the board. I mean, we went through 10 or 15 different solicitors before we found one which we felt offered a service that was good enough that we were okay to recommend them to our clients. You know, we went through quite a few. You went through quite a few different CRM software bits until we landed on the one that we knew would work for us. I'm always doing it as well. You know, I won't put something out there as a new piece of content or a new piece of way to market at home until I've trialed it over and over and over again, and I can clearly see the benefit.
Yeah,
I think that testifies to a really good setup in terms of our outlook. You know, that we'll invest the time in
absolutely
refining, improving. Is this 100% perfect and right for our clients? And if the answer to that is yes, okay, switch it on.
Yeah.
And if for any reason it's no, then you don't use it. And I think that's so much more refreshing than when you find things that are put together to a budget or a deadline. You know.
So if there's an issue, you don't just put, you know, like a little plaster on it. We do invest our time into finding the right things that work for us and how we operate as a company and team. Because if we don't, you know, invest, how can we expect our clients to do the same and put their trust in us as well?
Yeah. So. Yeah, no, absolutely. What about you, Chloe? Any other challenge times? I mean, have you had COVID yet?
I have.
Oh, you did have COVID,
yeah.
yeah. But it wasn't during the CRM switch on.
No. I picked my time slightly better, but it wasn't far off. Obviously, we came back from the Christmas break, but I didn't actually come back after the Christmas break because I decided to get COVID on
An
New Year's
extended
Eve.
break.
Yeah, convenient.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve.
New
I had
Year's
COVID.
Day, so I can't come in. I've got COVID.
COVID,
yeah.
Okay.
It worked, so
I'm sure you weren't the only one to use that.
no, but sort of challenging
We're joking.
times.
You were poorly.
Yeah. I mean, there has been some challenging times. Obviously, not even relating to the systems that we use and stuff like that. But there's always hurdles that we're going to come across, and there's always, like I said earlier, in every single sale, there's always going to be different hurdles. They're never, no two are the same.
Yeah.
But it's how we come across those and the way that we manage those that I think is really important. If a hurdle comes up between the two solicitors, it's not just a case of, well, that's the solicitors, we sort of then, almost intervene and step in the middle of that.
Do you feel obligated to? Do you feel like at this point that it's your personal responsibility that if a problem's going on over there, even though it might be between solicitors and we're not solicitors, that it's, your job is there to step in and kind of go, this needs solving because our client is going to be affected by that.
Yeah, and I think, without us sort of stepping in like that and, whether it's calling the solicitors or calling the clients or the other agents in the chain, I think without that, the process would, it would become longer because then there's just these delays that don't seem to get resolved sometimes. But I think as well, we take that stress away from the client because if not, it's them trying to call their solicitor and finding out what's going on. It's them trying to then speak to their own buyer or the seller, whoever it may be, to try and get answers to things. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's challenging because obviously we have clients who are worried or stressed. But I think us taking that away from them and us stepping in when those challenges face, whatever it may be, whether it's solicitors or it's an inquiry that can't be answered or it's a mortgage valuation or the building surveys had something flag up. It's about how we're going to solve that for the clients.
Yeah. We're almost like become little investigators sometimes, don't we? We're like,
It
right,
feels
okay,
that way.
this is the issue. What can we do? Whether it be, I've had cases where the chain's ready to exchange and complete, but then someone up in the chain loses their removals or last minute, and we're like, right, it's not necessarily our client, but it does affect our client. So what can we do to? Let's call some removal companies. Let's try and do what we can. And
I like that. I like that we've over the time we've almost like created this little black book of like people to go to for this sort of like we've got a carpenter on hand, we've got this person on hand, we've got that person on hand. I think that's a really good resource to have. It might be the wrong point to ask this because we're quite far into. But I mean, like, what was it like for you, both of you, coming into this world? Because neither of you came from a different agent or another area of real estate where you might have been conditioned to previous ways of doing stuff.
certain ways,
you came into it brand new, and not only did you come into it brand new, you came into it brand new into a brand new role that typically doesn't exist. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, August 2020 was just a couple of months after the stamp duty. Obviously, I was learning. I'd never been in the industry before, so I was learning the process as such and obviously fine-tuning what I do. And then, the beauty of obviously being with a new company as well is like we work in such a unique way. We could start from the very beginning, go, right, okay, what's the vision as such? How do we want to see this path going? What do we want to provide to our clients? Okay, right, what systems are we going to need to put in place? Which is obviously the CRM system which months in the process, months in the making, and just being able to implement different operations and systems and just the way we work from the very get-go. And it wasn't obviously, going into a company that had been, worked a certain way for 20, 30 years, and obviously trying to change that because that's more of a challenge. It was going, right, this is where we start and this is where we see ourselves going.
I think it's a really important mindset to approach something from because it's a mindset that's closer actually to a customer's mindset rather than closer to like an agency's mindset. And I think that's the right way to approach things.
Yeah.
I think there is tremendous value in coming into an industry completely new to it.
Yeah.
Because you don't have any limitations then. There aren't any boundaries of preconceived ways of doing stuff that your thoughts operate within. You can kind of go, well, what if? What if this was like this? What if we did this way?
Yeah.
And also with the company being so young, there wasn't any old guard there going, well, we're not going to do it that way because it's always been done this way.
I think if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
I think that almost, for me anyway, it sort of benefited me, because I remember I think it was my first day actually, John said, there's nothing you need to worry about. There's, you can't break anything. And I always
John's
remember him
famous
saying that.
I think.
You can't break it.
Yeah.
And I think him saying that it stuck with me, because it made me think, well, just try and just see what happens. And, I had this sort of training going on, which almost got pushed to the background for the stamp duty, but there was this training going on and bits that I was doing behind, but at the same time it was almost take this training now and just try it, because like John said, you just can't break anything. And I think obviously if we'd have gone into an agency that you said like had been going for even 5-10 years, whatever it may be, it's almost like then we have to slot with them, whereas it almost feels like here the company would fit with you, and the company moulded to how we all worked, and we all worked very similar, and we all had the same goals and the same visions. And I think because of that, Lennon James as a company has fit around us rather than us having to fit in a business.
I think one of the things that's really useful for my role, I don't know if this will translate for yourselves, but there's so much room to discover solutions. If something's not quite working right, or you kind of think, well, this could be better, or why is this not like this? There's so much room and time to kind of explore solutions for that. Whether it be a small thing like, typically floor plans look absolutely terrible. Well, I spent 3 or 4 months looking at floor plans, how to make them better, and then eventually they are what they are now. Having the room to be able to do that is so much better, because it always means that what you end up with is such a good solution, product, whatever you want to call it, at the end of it all. So I think that's one of the main sort of benefits of working with a young company, and a company that gives you that space to do that.
Right.
Good. Okay. I mean, a nice place to leave it would be, I know that you've been here long enough now, both of you have, that you'd have enough sort of stories and things from viewings and stuff like that. So talk to me about what your most enjoyable parts of your job are, and some of the things that you didn't expect to come across.
Oh, Chloe can take the lead on this. I mean, she's got I don't know why it's always you.
It's always me that has the strange, the funny, the confusing viewings. And I think we had this conversation the other day, and I said my favourite part of the job is definitely the viewings, because you just never know who's going to walk through that front door and what it is that they're looking for, or how they're going to act. And I remember a few months ago now, we had a house in Godmanchester, and I was doing a viewing there, and the gentleman that came in was really lovely, really chatty, really friendly, was making great conversation. Had a look around the downstairs, and it seemed like he was really liking it, and they sort of go upstairs, and at that point I tend to sort of stay downstairs and hang back a little bit. It gives them chance to have a chat, and it gives them chance to have a better look round without sort of us as the agent, in the background. And I heard the shower go on, and I thought, okay, maybe he's looking at the water pressure and bits like that. That's fine. And it carried on, and I could hear like a sort of a bit of a giggle. So I thought, I'll go upstairs and I'll see what's going on. And the gentleman actually put his head under the shower and was literally washing his hair. So he's turned the shower on fully, completely. His head's under it, fully clothed, and he's just giving his hair a wash.
That's always good.
I'm sort of so taken back that I had no idea what to say. Like,
do you use head and shoulders?
There's a gentleman that's just literally washing his hair in someone else's shower of a house that he's not even put an offer on. He's just had a look.
Yeah, at least put an offer on.
Yeah. And in my head, I'm just thinking, how many other houses have you been to and you've done that? And there's probably agents watching this now.
Well, there's only so many times you can wash your hair in a day. I mean, you can't have it in that many houses.
But there's probably agents watching this now thinking,
we know that guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. But it was just so strange. And then I came back to the office I came back to the office and we just laughed about it,
Yeah,
because I said, you wouldn't believe what's just happened. And the fact that, you know, obviously these guys have all been in the industry that bit longer than me, and it was just, they were shocked. They had no idea, and they said, well, what did you do? And I said, well, you know, I didn't offer him shampoo, I didn't give him a towel. It was,
You didn't give him a towel?
no, it's not.
You don't go through someone's airing cupboard and be like,
No, I suppose so.
So we sort of
So
went
you just stood in front of
downstairs.
you, dripping.
We went downstairs, and he wanted to carry on the conversation. He still had questions, and he was just genuinely chatty. And he's just stood there with this dripping wet hair, and it was just, what? Where do you even go from here? How does it even go? And he did actually end up putting an offer on the house, and it was accepted. So
oh yay!
yeah,
it was worth it in the end, but
Yeah.
it was very strange.
He must have known.
Very
He must have
surreal.
known it was, that was his dream home when he had a shower.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the shower must have been right.
That must have been the thing that clenched the deal.
Yeah.
Nice.
yeah, it's always you. Just
You've had some rip-roaring moments, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time that we went over to a property together when you were
Yes.
filming, and I did the measuring.
Yeah, that freaked you out.
And I went in the kitchen, and she was giving herself a haircut. Again, hair. Giving herself a haircut.
There's a
over
theme
the-
going on
I was
here.
watching a YouTube tutorial
Yeah,
on
she
how
had
to do it.
a YouTube tutorial. I think it was I think it literally said how to cut your hair 101 guide or something like that. And she's in her kitchen.
How all the hairdressers
and
work.
she's
yeah,
sort of pulled it all forward, quite long hair, and she's tied it up here, and she's literally just snipping this hair. And I sort of went in, she's like, oh, sorry. And I think she was so embarrassed that she didn't really know what to do. And then you sort of get that second-hand embarrassment of like, oh. And I made the thing of going, oh, don't worry, we've all done it.
We haven't though. Have
And
we?
then you look
I
back
certainly
and go,
haven't.
and you look back and go, oh, I just shouldn't have even said that. But again, another funny story.
But you
that,
were like brand new at that point.
yeah, I think it
at
was
that
it was
point
in
of
my
it-
first week. I
Yeah.
think.
yeah,
it
those.
was the
I
first-
know
first
exactly
time
which
you-
ones you're talking about. Yeah,
It was the first time that you'd come out with me to do any sort of film or thing. I think at that point I didn't even know your surname. You were that new. You were that new.
Yeah.
I thought you were called Christy.
Christy, pass me the camera.
yeah.
But yeah, no, that must have been a real sort of like as a first introduction to going out.
I think that was the moment where I realised this is exactly what I want to do, but I can't believe that this is what's made me realise this is what I want to do.
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah, a
But
turning point there.
yeah,
What
definitely.
about you? What's been your worst ones?
Do you know what? I haven't. We've talked about this so many times, but I don't think I've had any like weird ones. I've had strange. Well, people just argue, and it's just, you just stand there and you're like, okay, like yeah,
Awkward?
this is
Had
like
a full-on domestic in front of you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there was the one where you actually locked yourself out.
oh yeah, no, okay, yeah, no, I think that was a month or two of me starting doing a viewing. I'd had a couple there that day, so I'd put all my stuff down. Stupidly, lesson learnt, didn't put the key in my pocket. I went outside to greet the viewers, and I just heard the door close, and I was like,
That's fine. Get
That's
back in
fine.
the door, yeah,
No
right.
worries. Went to go in, greeted them, went to go in. I was like, yeah, come on in. I was like, oh no, the door won't shut. The door won't open. Locked itself, like automatically, like locking door, the fancy technology. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Looked around, I knew I'd opened the bifold doors as well. So I looked around the side, thought I could scale the fence or something. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I was just like, it just didn't
You
work.
didn't though, did you? You didn't
I
scout.
didn't scout the fence. No,
No,
I'm
you're not
5 foot
Spider-Man.
nothing, and this
Yeah.
fence was like 7 foot something. And you know, it's you know, obviously you just tackle things like that. You know, just called the client. I was like, look, this is the situation. They found it funny, thankfully, and then they just popped round and just let me back in. And I was just like, now I always have the keys on me.
Yeah.
Never ever let like you almost want to get like
Chain.
a chain.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
even from hearing that story, you know, that was before I started, and that's never happened to me. But because of that, I've got such a almost fear of that happening on a viewing that I constantly am making sure I've got a key in my pocket. Even if I know that door doesn't lock from the outside, I'll always make sure that there's a key in my pocket,
Yeah.
because that's just got to be one of those moments where you just think, oh,
You just feel, I just felt, I'd say embarrassed at that point, because obviously you've got your client and you're a professional and you're supposed, this is what you do,
Yeah.
and you lock yourself out, and then the client, the buyer's potential buyer is standing there, and you're like,
I'm sure that I reckon
they
there's-
found it funny.
Yeah,
They found it
and
funny.
I reckon there'll be loads of agents probably watching this kind of going, yeah, we've got our stories like this. I think it's just part of the job. Is that you're going to come across.
Yeah, and you get your typical like embarrassing sock moments where we've got like a hole in their sock or mismatched socks. Like we all do it, like that's fine. But I think like now
mismatch, I don't think I get embarrassed about. If I had a hole in my sock, I think I would. Just my toe poking out. Sort of, hey guys!
I mean, it happens, and you got to make a joke of it, I suppose, or just carry on. You know, you have to judge the people, I suppose.
I think it's an age thing as well. I mean, I think if a toddler turned up and he had a hole in his sock, like,
no judgment there.
Don't worry about it. When you're 35 and you've got a hole in your sock, it's like, get your life together, mate.
It's Christmas next month. It'll be fine. Yeah. I mean, you have some funny stories and that's fine, and some bad stories, but it's all rewarding at the end, I think.
I don't think I've got any. But I don't think I've got any like real embarrassing. Actually, the only stuff that I would class as embarrassing is stuff where you've come with me.
Yeah.
So the hair...
It seems to be me. I've almost got this bad,
omen.
Yeah.
The hair cutting moment. The time when I went to film a room and someone was asleep in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. That was one of your ones as well.
Yeah, we opened the door and there's just...
That's why we keep you in the office now.
It's
just
this is why desk duties.
There's been some good memories. There's been bad memories.
Yeah.
They're not really bad memories. They're just times that
you go, oh, what do we do? This shouldn't be happening. But we tackle them. We figure out a way to deal with them, and we always come out the other end. So.
Fab. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. You two enjoy being on the podcast? First time on the podcast?
First of many.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I think we sort of thought it was going to be, actually. It wasn't as daunting with a
you two did right on camera.
Grilling.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that and took something away from it. Might just be that, you need to replace your socks.
Yeah.
Might just be that. If you've got any other questions or things you want to hear us talk about in future podcasts, let us know, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.